Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. And an even bigger hello to Steve, who is an expat living in Miami, and asked if I could give him a shout out as a long-time listener. So a big hello to you, Steve. But the only request I'm going to make for future shout-outs is you give me your surname or Twitter handle or something like that, because I'd like to get to know my loyal listeners a little more. As you know, I'm a big advocate of diversity of thought and using technology to bring each other together and learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses. Now, today, I want to share a radical thought, especially to leaders that are listening. Co-CEOs, can that concept ever work? According to research, the answer is no, it almost never works. However, according to Paul Kenyon and Mark Austin, the answer is a resounding yes. And also, it's the only way that their company, Avecto, would have been able to achieve the success that it has to date, such as securing 8 million endpoints. The two have been running Avecto together in cohesion for the past decade, but this isn't their first time working together either. Mark and Paul have already worked together as co-founders of the company AppSense, and while they didn't know exactly what technology they wanted to create for their next company, what they did know was for their next endeavour, the only way it would work is if they were co-CEOs. What I think is so refreshing about today's guest is both Paul and Mark both believe that the most successful leaders out there find their opposite and learn from them every day. And as a result, they're solving a big problem for IT departments with their solution called Avecto, but I don't want to reveal too many spoilers, so buckle up and hold on tight, as I'll beam your ears all the way to Manchester here in the UK, so we can speak with Paul Kenyon and Mark Austin, co-CEOs of Avecto. So a massive warm welcome to the show, guys. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Okay, so we're from Avecto. My name's Paul Kenyon. I'm responsible for everything on the commercial side of the business. So functionally, I look after sales and then marketing, and the customer-facing people roll up to me.
I'm Mark Austin. I'm the other co-founder, and I look after R&D and also finance and admin, and then we run the company together.
Now, the first question I have to ask you guys is co-CEOs. I mean, what's all that about? Can that concept really work? Because my gut says no, but you're already proving naysayers wrong. So can you tell me more about what made you choose that unconventional path and how it's the only way Avecto would have actually achieved the success that it has done by securing 8 million endpoints? I think it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, I guess we don't think of it as being unconventional because it's been a natural fit for Mark and I. We worked together for 20 years, and in those 20 years, never fallen out, never had an argument. So I think we're good pals to begin with. But I think the secret, and Mark, and you can tell you in a moment what he thinks, but I think the secret is we both have very diverse set of skills. So, you know, I'm a commercial guy, and historically I've always worked in sales and alongside Mark, and from Mark's point of view,
and again with my R&D focus, and I think we've got a healthy respect for each other's areas as well. So there's a good crossover. We know where to let the other person run with something, where we need to work together when we're running the business. So I think when you've been working 20 years across 3 different companies, you just know how to work with each other. You know where your strengths are, where the weaknesses are. So it has worked really well for us, and it was, as Paul said, quite natural when we set the company up 10 years ago to be co-CEOs.
I love that crossover and how both of your skills are complementing each other there. But for anyone that's hearing us talk about Avecto for the very first time, can you just offer the listeners an overview of what problems you solve for your customers and also what makes you different from other solutions out there?
Yeah, so we solve a fairly common problem in business. So I should say we sell business to business, and it's a really common problem that's out there that when we set up 10 years ago, and it was probably even older than that, but go back quite a while, whereas users are logging on to their desktops, their laptops, or even in the data center with highly privileged accounts. And the reason they do so is because they often need them to do their job. Even if you log on to your own laptop, it's amazing how many people log on with admin rights just because many of the tasks that are built into Windows, or they need to install some software or upgrade some software, it requires an admin account, which is why many companies end up giving these admin credentials out to all of their users, certainly on their own devices. The problem with that is even if they're a fairly well-behaved user, let's say, and they only do what they're supposed to do, you really are putting the company at huge risk. Because if you get a malware outbreak, let's say you click on an attachment and some malware in there, if you've got admin rights, then that malware is going to do an awful lot more damage. It can bury itself deep in the operating system. It can easily start to traverse the network. So you tend to find, most, cyber attacks, they do an awful lot more damage if they manage to sort of launch where someone's got these admin privileges on a desktop, and from there they spread across the organization. So what we enable you to do is to remove the admin rights from the users, but without losing all the good parts of having an admin account, which is the enablement, the empowerment. So through our agent, we allow the user to do all the things they need to do with admin rights, but without an admin account. So without the danger that if a piece of malware gets on there, it's got an admin credential that it can steal. We make sure users log on with a standard account, but they can still be empowered to do all the things they need to get their job done.
It's easy to see how Avecto has established itself as a leader in privilege management. And hearing you talk there brought back so many flashbacks of my career in IT and that admin password that everybody wanted to install the slightest thing. But for anyone else, can you just explain a little more about what that is and maybe offer a few use cases to help listeners understand the value that you're able to add with Avecto without revealing that admin password?
Yeah, so even as because the history of where Windows has come from, and by the way, this is relevant to Macs as well. It's no different. Is that laptops, they're often sold. They're sold to businesses, they're sold to individuals. So they have to have accounts that let you do just about everything on that desktop, from configuring it to installing software. The problem is most of these things need to be quite controlled. When you install software, it needs to go into a trusted area of the operating system. Even when you connect to a new printer, it might require admin rights, or maybe configure something within the operating system. And some of these tasks, they're quite benign, they're not a security risk, but they require admin rights because of where the data is held on that system. So in order to let a user do that without a solution like Avecto, you would usually give that user an admin account. But as I said, the problem with that is that once they've got an admin account to do the things they need to do, it means they can do anything on that machine, which isn't a good thing in business, because even accidentally, the user might go and use those credentials to change something they shouldn't really be changing. Or as I mentioned before, is even if they're well behaved, there could be a virus comes in and that virus gets hold of those rights as well. So the key to our solution is to give that granular control, if you like, that volume control, that rather than giving them complete control over their laptop, we give them the right amount of control to do the things they need to do their job. And then we don't give them privileges where they don't need them, or maybe where there's a risk. And also have gated access. So if they need to do something for the first time, they're not constantly going to the help desk. It might be that they can just, a simple phone call and get a one-time password, and they can run that application. And again, we need to deal with different types of users as well. Everyone from, maybe a more task-based user where they only run a few different applications, all the way up to, developers and system administrators who do lots of different things with their admin rights. So the key to our solution is to be able to cater for all those different use cases and be able to do them at a granular level without giving away the keys to the kingdom, if you like.
It certainly sounds like you two perfectly complement each other. I mean, Mark, with your software background, how you help lead Avecto's research and development teams, driving the company's constant innovation. And equally, Paul, with your background in commercial challenges with over 800 global brands, you're able to steer sales and marketing and highlight the benefits of simple and smart endpoint security to global businesses. But was that always part of the master plan, or has it just naturally evolved that way?
I'd like to think that when Mark and I first started working together 20 years, that we devised that, many years later, it would all turn out this wonderfully. But the truth is it didn't. Mark and I started to work together at a company called eSoft Engineering. eSoft?
Yeah, that became
engineering software that became Visol. Yeah, it's that many moons ago now. And Mark and I met because I was selling software. Mark was on the pre-sale side, and we kind of just hit it off as a pair and worked fairly heavily together in those early days. And it became clear that Mark had a development background, and between us we'd always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit, so we decided to give it a go, and we drove AppSense using somebody else's money, and kind of built that to be a 350-man company, multi hundreds of millions of dollars worth, and doing effectively what we do now. So Mark ran everything on the technical side, and I ran everything on the sales side, and we did so up until we left in 2008 to effectively just do it for ourselves. So if you like, we always had plans from the very early days to start a business together and see how far we could go. But by that definition, yeah, okay, we kind of devised it. But if you'd had asked us back then, what would the company look like? How big would the companies get to? What technology would we be selling? I doubt we could have told you back then.
So I recently read that Avecto is getting acquired by Bomgar, a global private cybersecurity firm headquartered in Atlanta over in the US. So can you tell me more about that, what it means for the company and you guys? Is it an exciting time for you?
Yeah, it's a very exciting time. So in terms of the space we both operate in, I've mentioned what our technology does in terms of the problems we solve, but we work in if you like, we're focused in a bigger space called privileged access management, which is all around managing privileged accounts, whether it's doing what we do or doing different things like vaulting these accounts or managing the sessions that people log on to with admin accounts or recording them and access control. So there are many different solutions in the space that we sit in. And Avecto are a clear leader in one area within that privileged access management space, which is endpoint privilege management, which is this ability to remove admin accounts from users, log on with a standard account, and then elevate the individual applications and tasks. And then Bomgar have basically got complementary solutions within the same space where they're more focused around privileged identity, which is securing shared admin credentials in vaults where they get checked out securely, the users never get to see the password. And then the other side of privileged identity is privileged access, where the accounts that are in the vaults are checked out, the user logs on to a privileged session but without ever seeing the admin password, and then they manage those privileged sessions in terms of the access to them and also recording them. So the two together really fit really well. The Avecto and Bomgar combined can be a real leader in the broader privileged access management space, which is why it makes so much sense to both companies.
Now, you have both been running Avecto together in cohesion for the past decade now. But like you hinted at the very beginning, this isn't the first time you've led together, is it? So you've worked together as co-founders at the company AppSense, for example. So what lessons did you learn from your previous startup, and how's that going to help steer you in the right direction today, or how is it helping you?
Yeah, I think they say that those that don't learn from their history are doomed to repeat it. And it's probably fair to say from our point of view, we've made our fair share of mistakes in the past, but fortunately have kind of learned from those mistakes. And, I don't think you really grow as an individual if you're not prepared to kind of try new things out and learn from those things that go wrong, but also really understand the successes as well and why you succeeded. So from our point of view, we've done, I think, a whole bunch of things that we did do in the past that worked out. So, how we approached building the sales teams and, how our methodology for selling. And there's a whole bunch of things we've had to do differently because the market itself has changed as well. So how we've gone about marketing the technology, there's once upon a time, digital marketing was a division of marketing, and now it's, all marketing is digital. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's had to change along the way.
Yeah, and it's fair to say you learn some things, not that you necessarily get them wrong all the time, but you realise how important they are. So culture, I think everyone now says how important company culture is. So again, we've learned that from getting it right, from getting it wrong, and hiring obviously plays into that in terms of hiring the right people is so important when you're growing a business. And another one I'd say we picked up on is focus. Again, being able to focus on an area that is big enough that you can be successful and grow the company, but you don't try to, diversify too quickly as well. So I think that focus and that building that company culture are things that, again, we've learned historically, not necessarily because they've been done badly, but we've seen what works, what doesn't work, and just how important they are to building and running a successful business.
Excellent. Now, in a world of echo chambers where people surround themselves with opinions that strengthen their beliefs, I think that diversity of thought, especially in tech, that challenges and helps you grow is so important. So as co-CEOs, do you think that successful leaders find the opposite and learn from themselves and learn from each other every day too?
Yeah, I think Mark and I don't just have a different set of skills. We also have very different personalities as well. Yeah. So from my point of view, I'm probably fair to say I'm more extrovert, and I'm much more likely to think aloud. I think from that point of view, I have a tendency to kind of, my default setting is execute. And I think from Mark's point of view, he's a much more considered individual. and is much more likely to take time over to consider all of the different outcomes and then plump for the one that he thinks is best. And I think in some instances that is absolutely the right thing to do, and then sometimes we kind of need to act. And having an appreciation of Mark's personality and style, and Mark likewise of mine, has meant that we've got the best of both worlds. And from time to time we've had to Mark has had to slow me down, and I've need to kind of speed Mark up. But I think that's one of the reasons why the partnership works so well.
And I think it's fair to say it goes, as picking up Paul said, I think it goes beyond just myself and Paul as well. I think we've surrounded ourselves with people that aren't afraid to challenge our ideas, give feedback, suggest alternative approach. I think the worst thing you can do is hire people that are just going to agree with you. You need that feedback all the time to sort of, that you go in the right direction. And Paul and I can just come up with all the good ideas. So it really is important that you hire people that aren't afraid to sort of speak up. And then that's part of the culture as well, is making sure you've got an open culture where people aren't scared to speak up, no matter what their role, their standing, their position in the company. They're quite happy to give feedback to anybody. And you really do need that sort of environment. Otherwise, the danger is CEOs can make mistakes and people are scared to say, I think you got it wrong.
We've had a kind of a drive on understanding making mistakes. There's a book by Matthew Syed called Black Box Thinking. And it was a book that Mark and I came across not long ago, and both felt resonated an ethos around making mistakes that we believed we wanted to endorse and adopt. And we got the management team to read that book, and we did a presentation to the whole of the company. And the whole idea is that it's a mistake isn't a mistake until you've made it twice. And that it's acceptable to challenge each other. It's acceptable to kind of screw up, and it's acceptable to get things wrong, as long as we learn from it and that we apply those learnings going forward in order to be better. And I think that kind of very closely demonstrates the sort of culture that we've tried to build and the sort of business that we've tried to build, where actually nothing's set in stone, nothing's sacred, nobody's more important than anybody else. I don't care whether you're the lady who sits on reception or you're the co-CEO. We've all got a purpose, we've all got hopes, dreams and fears, and we're in this together. So we've tried to, I think we've done a very good job, if I might say so, of creating a culture that's indicative to driving the success of the business.
I think I can hear the sound of black box thinking being added to shopping carts all over the world as we speak there.
Great book.
But as we look to the future, what's your grand vision for Avecto?
It's fair to say, I think, when you're in the tech world, you have to look a few years ahead in terms of where you're going and what you're building. I think we always want to be a leader. You can choose, you can choose to be a follower, do it quickly, do it, not as well, achieve. I think we always want to be a leader in tech, so we've always invested in R&D and innovation. So, we picked our space, which is endpoint privilege management. So it was always about being the best we could be, being the leader and growing that space. And then when the time was right, we would have broadened out as well. But I think number one, when we set Avecto up, it's fair to say that we just wanted to run a good business that could be a leader in its space, innovate, fast growth, and then create a culture where, that was conducive to supporting that vision and where people would actually want to come to work. I think we've always been doing that, trying to look as far ahead as we possibly can, but you can't look too far ahead. Sometimes you've just got to build on what you've got, and keep a level of focus on what you're good at as well.
Well, there's so many great value bombs that you've dropped on today's show, and there's going to be a lot of people incredibly curious and wanting to find out more about you. So can you remind the listeners of where they can find you online, and also contact a member of your team if they've got any questions about anything that we've spoken about today?
The best place to find us and all our contact information is www.avecto.com. And if you go to the contact page, all of the addresses for the different offices and telephone numbers can all be found there.
Fantastic. Well, a huge thanks to both of you coming on today. I love everything that you're doing here. And someone that's experienced a lot of that world in my former life, in my IT career, I really appreciate the value in what you're doing. But not just that, it's also your culture and how you introducing diversity of thought and doing that right from the top, leading with that ethos as well. So a big thank you for coming on today.
Thanks so much, Neil.
Thanks very much, Neil.
What a great story. First of all, as a guy with IT blood still running in his veins, I love the problems they're solving with Avecto. And anyone that's worked in an office will know the pain involved with wanting to do something so simple like installing an Adobe Reader update, and how that can typically end up with a call to IT and logging a priority 4 call that takes days to action. It's just the stuff of nightmares, isn't it? So the fact that Avecto is empowering users and brings support requests down while also increasing protection is an amazing thing for me. But I especially love how they're making their co-CEO leadership work and how they're using their differences to their advantage. And I love their philosophy that the most successful leaders find their opposite and learn from them every day. And in a world of echo chambers where we discourage diversity of thought and just tune into what we already believe in and strengthen those opinions, I find Paul and Mark's approach here so refreshing, and the company culture that they're bringing there as well, where everybody's got a voice and everybody can question and have an opinion. But as always, let me pass on the virtual baton to you. What are your thoughts? You can email me techblogwriter@outlook.com or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. I found today's episode and Mark and Paul's attitude and everything that they're building there to be quite inspirational, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. I will return tomorrow with another great guest that I hope you find valuable. And hey, maybe we can all learn a thing or two together this week. So that's it for me. So work hard, stay humble, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.